What's going on, guys? It's your boy Vision. Now, in the last video we talked about the Grandmasters in the Exodus Crash, Broodhold and the Inverted Spy. Today we're going to hit up the Scarlet Keep, Disgraced and the dreaded Glassway, all of which I'm going to do exactly the same. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to start off with Scarlet Keep because in these next 3 runs, Scarlet Keep was actually kind of our easy one. It probably took us about 6 attempts overall, and likely because of the point we just kind of knew what we were doing in here. It kind of did cause a bit of mischief at times, but we were able to rectify it quickly, and it definitely came onto a point. So I mean, everything all the way up to the first room, as soon as you get respawning restricted, kind of didn't give us a problem. It was when we got here, which was a bit funny and a bit stupid on our behalves, because you have 2 barriers on both sides, and then you've got the wizards on either side. When you kill one of them, obviously they spawn in more ads, and more or less another barrier comes in from either side. We did some stupid stuff here, to be honest. We were jumping around like nightmares and everything and blowing each other up with curse throws. Not even telling people there's curse throws behind you, Brent. And we just enjoyed it. But for our loadout this time, we went back to our secondary configuration. So that was with the 2 hunters, one running a golden gun celestial and one running a revenant. And then obviously the thunder crash starting. We had 1 person running the unstoppable, because there's not many unstoppables in this one, and 2 running the barriers. Myself, again, I had the Izanagis on, and also the barrier. I believe someone had an anarchy on and all, to just help out with the ads a bit more, and the barriers, just to make sure that damaging effect comes in. But basically, just this room, you want to work on one side and then work your way to the other. Like I said, you've got 45 minutes in the area. You've got plenty of time to basically get from either side. Yeah, you've got to work quickly on it, but it's not going to slow you down at all. The bridge here at the end also kind of gives a bit of a problem, because you have the barrier up top and you also have the Shrieker. Now the Shrieker is a major instead of a normal miner, and obviously the barrier is the barrier, but the barrier has a specific range, and me being on Izanagi's duty and barrier duty, I have to make sure I've got at least the Shrieker down so we can move in a bit closer, but I've also got to be ready in order to stagger the barrier knight ready for my 2 main guys, and that can sometimes prove to be a real threat. What probably caused a lot of trouble for us was this room. Although we didn't actually do bad in here in terms of time and everything, in like how many times we actually had to wipe, it was mainly due to connection again dropping us. But I mean, there was a couple of times we were stuck in here for quite some time, and it was eating up our time limit. Because basically, when you start the encounter in here, basically you have a barrier knight in front of you along with a hive wizard. When you go to the other side, obviously they're going to spawn in more enemies, including another major wizard. But when you stand on the plate, it's also going to bring out another barrier knight, and that's going to be exactly the same on both sides. So you're going to have at least 4 or 3 barrier knights in here to work with. Now, obviously, being the guy to stagger them, I've got to get myself in a good spot, but also not in a spot that's going to get me killed easily. And sometimes they were perfect, and my teammates were just not having them off, and then next minute they would either stay still or they'd run off somewhere else. You never know. Or I just couldn't get a shot off, and sometimes it's just that case of that you've just got to work slowly through it and just see what you can pick off. But I mean, the one time we actually did it was just amazing shots coming out. As soon as the barrier was up, just shot him, staggered, shields going down, happy days, and we flew through that in probably about 5 or 6 minutes, I believe. When it came to the boss, actually, we never had a problem here. We did it first try when we got to the actual boss. We knew that there was going to be a lot of enemies coming in place of hive boomers with arc shields, unstoppables were jumping in. We knew there was going to be a lot, and that's kind of key when the revenant came into place and all. Obviously, being the case that we can slow stuff down and then we can work on a few. But I mean, it still caused problems in terms of how many reses we were actually using in here, because obviously reses is priority. And I mean, we did run out of time at the end, thanks to my amazing thunder crashes and being the person that Titans are meant to be. But I mean, it still didn't cause problems. The only thing that caused problems in here would probably say if the boss comes down here, obviously, into like your cubby hole where you're actually plating at, or if the boomers were queen on top of you. That sometimes caused a lot of disarray. But I mean, even if one person died and we still had a lot of boomers left, we just prioritized the boomers. and it was working for us because we still had 2 people up and everything. The anarchy was coming off brilliantly. Our grenades were coming out fine. It wasn't a problem, and like I said, we did this boss fight on the first attempt. So I mean, everything that I'm telling you now in the past 2 episodes, you can use in any way you want. If you want to use a different strat, obviously this was our main strategies, and we always had a backup just in case, obviously with the 2 different supers. But anything that works for you, this works for us brilliantly, and you'll see why when we do get to the Glassway, how we kind of change things up. But I mean, I believe this was our 4th completion of a Grandmaster, so we had about 2 left to go, and I believe that was just Exodus Crash, which we've already talked about, and the dreaded Glassway. Alright, moving on to Disgrace, beloved Omnigul. This took us some time. A lot of times trying to figure out what's going to be best to use in terms of what the enemies are and what actually comes in with it. We decided to revert back to our first strategy, obviously, that's with the Hunter, Revenant, Titan's Defender with Ursa Furiosa, and the Warlock well with Phoenix Protocol. So we were smashing out orbs all day, and this room was a menace. The 2 barrier servitors that are in here straight away, they're a nightmare. The snipers at the back, they're an even more of a nightmare, and you just can't get any sense of movement until one side's at least gone. So what we did, we decided to stay in the back room, obviously, and work our way through it then. Obviously, we tried to see if there was flag before we actually came into the place. Sometimes, like, as soon as we spawned in with the timer starting, there was a flag, so we went straight for it no matter what. Like, we've got supers, now we can get through here pretty quickly. So we were always spending about 6-7 minutes in here. Sometimes we died all the time and we had to restart when we got here. But, I mean, that was such a tough room. I mean, you've got to be ready for that one. I believe we all had a barrier on at that time and all. Probably I didn't actually. I think I was running the... Oh no, Alex was running the Unstoppable. So we all had a barrier on at least. It was just so much. And with match game applied, god damn it, that was hard. But even this place now, where we are, when all you have to literally do is walk forward. Like, that's all you're doing. But when you get here, there's 2 barrier servitors up top. There's another one outside. I believe that's the one that actually comes out from being in here with the first one. You have 2 shriekers at the back. When you actually do damage to the wizards and get rid of them, you'll have cursed thralls coming in. You'll have a dropship dropping off some more Thrall, another couple of boomer knights, and you'll also have 2 barrier knights on the other side. And these have got some range because they are boomers. Once the shriekers are open, you'll even have even more. You'll have another hive boomer down there, but you'll also have another 2 barrier champions that have both got hive splinters. So there were so many barriers just in this area, and you just had to make sure you knew what you were doing. What worked for us, we used a lot of Divinity, Izanagis, and actually Xenophage, just to make sure we're putting in the damage. Because it worked along with the Phoenix Protocol, because we just put it in the corner, we popped one of them, good night, we moved on to the next one, and it worked. Like, we were able to get them both down. If not, I had my Coda Commander ready, and all we literally did was just run down to middle, rush them, and just let the other 2 absolutely annihilate them, because that was the only other choice we could have. But that room, both of them rooms together, I would say are probably the hardest rooms altogether in Disgrace. Now, I've actually soloed this before, back in Destiny 1 when it was the true Omnigul fight, and not Navota, as it's like to be called here. So yeah, I knew what we were coming up against, and connection even now was such a huge issue in this one. Like, we had so many people dropping left, right and centre, mostly being me. My connection obviously isn't the best. I know I need to work on it, but it definitely did prove a threat, but we still managed it in the end, and I think we got to the boss room. Not even the boss room, to where we meet the boss the first time. I think the best we got was about 13 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, I believe. Now, the room before the boss caused a massive threat to us all. We just had a lot of time here where we couldn't figure out what we wanted to do, what we actually wanted to do. And when we did, we tried to replicate it again, but unfortunately it didn't work for us, because of everything that just happens in this room being a total nightmare. So I mean, you have to put the damage into the boss to make it go away into the actual main boss room, but once you've done that, you've got curse rolls coming in, you have the 2 wizards at the back, You also have curse rolls coming down, as I say. You have an unstopper log, and you have a hive boomer Barrionite up top on his little perch where he likes to be. You also have a normal hive boomer and a major hive boomer up top. When you get past all that, you have another 2 hive splinters. So there was barrier heaven over here. And what we realized was we weren't pushing up normally, so we had one person on top of the awnings that's on the left, which everybody walks past, that's kind of like a bit of scaffolding. We also had one person in a back room which you can actually get up to. That was myself, because I could see everything at the back then. I could see both knights, and I knew when my team was ready to drop them, I was ready to basically finish them off. And again, the boss even took a few attempts. We knew what we were coming up against. We knew there was going to be boomers, so we knew arc was a priority, and we knew there was going to be a couple of unstoppables. So we made sure we were playing on the sides, not actually playing in the middle. Although once we got everything down and that, we started to spread out a bit more, let the enemies come to us, so that we can adjudicate them to ourselves, but also not as far where we're basically outnumbered and we can't do as much. But even this room, I think we must have spent about a couple of times in there when it was the half-an-hour drill, and overall this took us a grand total of, I believe, 48 minutes, 50 minutes to actually complete it, when it was 45 minutes, because we knew how much health there was going into this. And going into Broodhold after, when it was the next week and the weekly reset happened, we knew like how much different amount of health they both had. So we were more or less, when we came back to doing Disgrace, we were ready. Like, we knew what we had to do, we knew where to stand in that, and we knew we could do it, obviously. Now, I've actually been hyping up Glassway all this time because this was the longest we spent on it, no matter what. This was the longest Grandmaster we've took on this one forever. This took us a grand total of 5 weeks, when it was the actual Grandmaster for the week before they all got released consecutively. This was the first one we attempted, and we got nowhere far. So obviously, in comparison to what we've used, we went back to the normal strat of having Phoenix Protocol well, Ursa Furiosa calling the Commander, and the Revenant Super, because we knew there's going to be a lot of Overlords. The Minotaurs are going to be a case of a destruction, and also the Wyverns, because we all know Wyverns can go suck one off, basically. Now, nothing caused us a threat, really, a problem. We were doing stuff at decent times. We were always improving our time what we had. But it was the room with the Technocrat Assistant the second term. The Sniper with the Vandal Snipers, Shanks, and an Overlord Captain. This room was a nightmare for us. It just wasn't going well at times. It was at brilliant times. We were absolutely flying through it one time. Next minute, we were taking like another 8 minutes on top of what we normally had. And sometimes we were all just dying because he likes to throw his stasis grenade, and it also caused a very big ruckus. Because what we actually decided on was, we had 2 people running anti-barriers. I decided to switch to a pulse. Unfortunately, I don't have a pulse this time, so I'm running a shotty. I tried a shotty one time. We all had an Overlord weapon on, no matter what, because we were going to need it for definite. And everybody, and I mean everybody, every time, we all ran Anarchy. Like, putting them Anarchies on everything, even if it was everybody absolutely slamming them just onto an Overlord just to get rid of him. That's what we did. I mean, spoils of war, we were going to get a heavy ban no matter what, but we made sure we went Anarchy trigger happy. Now, everything after the Technocrat Assistance, everything went fluid. I mean, we knew what we were doing here. We decided on, obviously, 2 people running into the circle to increase the timing frame on these. As soon as we had enemies come in, we would push to the back. I would switch my Call of the Commander on, so I was blocking everything that was coming at us, and we just had everybody behind the pillars, basically the doorway you enter. Once the Call of the Commander ran out, obviously we switched to the Phoenix Protocol well, and we did even more damage, and we just kept rinsing and repeating that. Now, this bot kind of took some time with us every time. Sometimes we absolutely annihilated it, sometimes we didn't, but the main priority in here is Vandals. Vandals can be a pain, obviously, with their aimbotting abilities and their weapons, but the main threat here is the Snipers. If you're going in kind of underwhelmed and don't really have the correct things on, you can become a 1-hit. Other than that, you're going to be a 2-hit, and the second hit is more or less just going to be an insta-kill because of how much health you actually lose. So there is a lot of cases where you need to play to the edges, play to the sides, and play slowly to get rid of the Vandals. Once obviously one of the Sniper Vandals had gone, or a few of them had gone, they would all push down to the middle. So we were able to push up a bit more, but you had to make sure they were gone at least. Here it is, guys, the main event, the bit that took us ages to do. We tried everything in here, because the first time we actually stepped in here, we knew about the little cheese spot that there is on the right, in which I'll show you in a couple of minutes when we actually get there. But this took some time. We're having overlords coming in, we're having the mini boss coming in, we're having wyverns. We knew something wasn't right in here, and we knew we had to find a way to get around it. So obviously the left side being the best side, we made sure we stuck in here at all times. We had everybody's head on a swivel. As soon as we saw an overlord pushing us, we were ready. We had to be ready no matter what. And there were times when both overlords would be pushing us and it would get even worse, but that's when the Remnant Super came in. And at times it did become a real menace. Sometimes it didn't, and we were flying through it. And we did the same with the wyverns and the fanatics and the goblins. We made sure everything was on a swivel, so we knew where to go, we knew where to push, and we knew when the best time. Obviously, when we're waiting and that, and obviously more enemies are spawning in, we were sending down a few anarchies, trying to get a stagger on an overlord, just so then we could try and get one dead before he comes up, or try and stop him a bit more so we can then focus on one at a time. And because there's 3 ways to come into this room, they would come from everywhere, and you just had to be ready for it. And if you weren't, you were more or less dead. It's just one of them. Be ready, don't be ready, it's up to you. My main advice to you in here, play it safe. Always ensure you get the 2 enemies down that you need to before you tell more reinforcements to come in. When they both actually come back at the end and you have wyverns and hobgoblins at the end phase, if you really want to play it safe, get into this cheese spot, because it is going to help you so much. And there was a time when I had to get out to try and spawn an enemy, and then we got rushed even more. But make sure you get the 2 overlords down first, then do damage to the mini boss, then get the other 2 down. But whilst you're doing that, before you do that, tell the mini Transcendent Hydra to go away. And do exactly the same with the wyverns, exactly the same with the hobgoblins, their barriers, and exactly the same with the final overlords and wyverns that are coming in, because they are going to hurt you so much. Because once you've told the last Vex reinforcements to come in, as they are now, you can tell the Hydra to go away, and that's it. There is no more enemies after that. If you want to go for the platinum, obviously you've got to hurt the 4 barrier hobgoblins. If you don't, just go for the boss. And because it's just the last one, we decided, no, we're so close. We were about 55 minutes into this. We're just going for it. We just decided to go and annihilate the boss. And we finally did it. What took us 5 weeks has finally given us the Grandmaster title. And that's everything I'm going to give you guys. That's just our tips and tricks and guides that we decided on. We were absolutely over the moon with this. And we wish we wouldn't step back in it before. And that's how we finally became Conquerors, just from them past 2 episodes, everything we did. So I hope you guys enjoyed it all. Make sure to like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Cheers and peace out.